I opened the Saturday compartment, today's date. The pills were still there, untaken. Had he died on Friday? Thursday? How long had this cottage been sitting here, empty, waiting for me to find it? The bedroom was at the back of the cottage, a small room with large windows overlooking the ocean. The bed was neatly made with a faded blue quilt, not one I recognized, but beautiful nonetheless, obviously handmade, with an intricate pattern of interlocking rings. On the nightstand was a stack of books. I recognized most of them, novels Marcus had always meant to read but never had time for. East of Eden by Steinbeck. 100 Years of Solitude by Garcia Marquez. The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay by Michael Chabon. Books I'd recommended over the years, books I'd given him for birthdays and Christmases, books that had sat on our shelves in Portland gathering dust while we were too busy living our lives to read them. He'd brought them here. He'd finally read them. There was also a journal, another one, similar to the one he'd sent me but with a red cover instead of brown. I picked it up carefully, as if it might crumble in my hands. I opened it to a random page. March 15th, good day today. Minimal pain. Watched the sun rise. It was spectacular, all oranges and pinks and purples reflecting off the water, the clouds lit up like they were on fire. I sat on the porch wrapped in a blanket and just watched it happen, watched the world wake up. Emma would have loved this. She always said sunrises were more hopeful than sunsets, that there was something about watching a new day begin that made her believe anything was possible. I miss sharing sunrises with her. I miss sharing everything with her. I turned to another page. April 2nd, Dr. Patterson called today. The treatment isn't working. I knew it probably wouldn't. Stage 4 doesn't respond well to treatment, that's why they call it stage 4, but there was a small part of me that hoped. Isn't that funny? Even now, even knowing I'm dying, I'm hoping for more time. Not time to do anything particular. Just time. Time to watch more sunrises. Time to read more books. Time to sit on the beach and listen to the waves. Time to think about Emma and remember our life together. Is it possible to be grateful for dying if it gives you time to appreciate what you had? Another page. May 18th, saw a couple on the beach today, holding hands. They looked about our age. They were laughing at something, and the woman leaned into the man the way Emma used to lean into me, like she trusted him completely to hold her up. Like she knew, without question, that he wouldn't let her fall. I had to turn away. It hurt too much. That should have been us. That could have been us, if I hadn't gotten sick. If I hadn't left. If I'd been braver. And another. June 7th, I think about calling Emma all the time. I have my phone in my hand, her number pulled up, and I just stare at it. Sometimes for minutes. Sometimes for hours. What would I even say? Hey, remember me? Your husband who disappeared without explanation? Yeah, I'm dying. Want to come watch? How is that better than silence? How is that kinder? At least this way she can move on. At least this way she doesn't have to watch me waste away. At least this way her last memory of me isn't this. I had to stop reading. I set the journal down on the nightstand, next to Marcus's reading glasses, glasses I hadn't known he needed, evidence of how much time had passed, how much had changed in the 2 years we'd been apart. In the closet, I found his clothes. Not many, a few flannel shirts, some jeans, a heavy sweater. I recognized all of them. His favorite red and black flannel that he'd worn so often it was soft as butter. The dark wash jeans he'd always said were his good jeans, reserved for dates and dinners out. A Blazers jersey signed by Damian Lillard that he'd won in a radio contest and treasured like it was made of gold. And hanging in the very back, protected by a garment bag, was his navy wedding suit. The one he'd worn on the day we got married. The one he'd been so worried about. I unzipped the bag slowly, half afraid of what I'd find. The suit was exactly as I remembered, classic cut, simple and elegant. I pressed my face into the jacket, hoping to catch a trace of his scent, but it just smelled like the cedar sachets I could see tucked into the pockets. He'd kept it. Even at the end, even when he was packing to leave, even when he was choosing what to bring to his death cottage, he'd brought his wedding suit. Why? Had he wanted to be buried in it? Had he wanted to remember our wedding day? Or had he just wanted one more piece of us, one more tangible reminder of what we'd been? I'd never know. That was the cruelest part of all this, all the questions I'd never get to ask him, all the things I'd never get to understand. I found them in a cardboard box in the closet, stacked neatly and organized by date. The box was one of those basic moving boxes, the kind you can get at any hardware store, but Marcus had written on the side in black marker, "For Emma." My hands were shaking as I pulled the box out and carried it to the living room. I set it on the coffee table, next to our blue mugs, and just stared at it for a moment. Inside were letters. Dozens of them. Maybe hundreds. All addressed to me in Marcus's handwriting. None of them mailed. I picked up the first one, dated just 3 days after he'd left. The envelope wasn't sealed, he'd tucked the flap inside, and I pulled out the letter carefully. Dear Emma. It's been 3 days. 3 days since I left you standing in our kitchen, confused and hurt and trying to understand what was happening. 3 days since I drove away from our life, watching you disappear in my rearview mirror. I'm in Cannon Beach now. The cottage is small but nice, right on the water like I'd hoped. You'd love it here, Em. You'd love the sound of the waves, the smell of the salt air, the way the light hits the water in the morning. But you're not here. And that's my fault. I keep telling myself I did the right thing. That this is better for you. That sparing you the pain of watching me die is worth the pain I'm causing you now. But I don't know if I believe that. I don't know if I believe anything anymore. Today I woke up and for a moment, I forgot where I was. I reached for you and found only empty space. That's how every morning starts now, with a moment of forgetting, and then the brutal reminder that you're not here, that I left you, that I chose this. I miss you already. God, Emma, I miss you so much it's like a physical ache, worse than the cancer. I miss your voice and your smile and the way you always steal the blankets at night. I miss how you hum when you're cooking. I miss your terrible puns that you think are hilarious. I miss everything. I love you. I'll always love you. Even if you never know it, even if you spend the rest of your life hating me, I'll love you until my last breath. Marcus. I pressed the letter to my chest, tears streaming down my face. 3 days. After just 3 days, he'd been falling apart. Missing me. Questioning his decision. But he hadn't come back. He hadn't called. He'd stayed in his cottage and suffered alone. I picked up another letter, this one dated a month later. Dear Emma. It's been a month. 30 days. 720 hours. Every one of them spent thinking about you. Dr. Patterson called today. The cancer is progressing faster than he expected. He wants me to start hospice care soon. Hospice. That word that means we're done fighting, now we're just waiting. I'm not ready. I know that's stupid, nobody's ever ready to die, but I'm really not ready. There's so much I wanted to do still. So many places I wanted to take you. So many conversations I wanted to have. Remember how we always talked about going to Italy? You wanted to see the Amalfi Coast, and I wanted to eat authentic pizza in Naples. We were going to rent a little villa and spend 2 weeks just wandering through small towns and drinking wine and pretending we were in a romantic movie. We're never going to do that now. We're never going to do any of the things we planned. And that's my fault. Because I got sick, yes, but also because I chose to spend my final months alone instead of with you. Was I wrong? I keep asking myself that. Was I wrong to leave? Should I have stayed? Should I have told you the truth and let you choose? I don't know anymore. All I know is that I'm here and you're there, and the distance between us might as well be the distance to the moon. I love you. I'm sorry. I wish things were different. Marcus. Another letter, dated 2 months later. Dear Emma. Today is your birthday. You're 42. We should be celebrating. We should be at that Italian restaurant you love, the one on Hawthorne with the really good carbonara. We should be drinking too much wine and sharing a tiramisu, and you should be wearing that black dress you think makes you look fat but actually makes you look stunning. Instead, you're probably at home, or maybe Rachel threw you a party, or maybe you went out with Beth from work. You're probably trying to have a good time, trying to act normal, but I know you, Em. I know you're thinking about me. Wondering where I am. Maybe wondering if I even remembered it was your birthday. I remembered. I'll always remember. I bought you a present. There's a little gift shop in town that sells handmade jewelry, and I saw this necklace, silver with a small turquoise stone. It reminded me of your eyes, the way they look in certain light, like the ocean on a sunny day. I bought it, even though I have no way to give it to you. It's sitting on my dresser now, in its little box, wrapped in paper I bought at the drugstore. A birthday present for a wife I left behind. Happy birthday, Emma. I hope you're okay. I hope you're more than okay. I hope you're happy, even without me. I love you. Always. Marcus. Letter after letter. Moment after moment of his life without me. His thoughts, his pain, his loneliness, his love. His struggle with the decision he'd made. His regrets. His hopes for me. July 3rd, heard fireworks from town last night. People celebrating Independence Day. Families on the beach with sparklers and blankets and coolers full of beer. I sat on my porch and listened and felt very far away from everything. From the world. From life. From you. Is this what dying is? Not the physical act of it, but the gradual disconnection from everything that makes life worth living? August 12th, bad pain today. The worst yet. Dr. Patterson increased my meds. They help, but they make me so foggy, so disconnected. I sleep most of the day now. When I'm awake, I look at our photos. There's one from our wedding where we're cutting the cake and you've got frosting on your nose and you're laughing. You were always laughing, Emma. That's what I miss most. The sound of your laugh. The way it made everything seem okay, even when things were falling apart. September 1st, 2 years ago today, I left. 2 years of silence. 2 years of you not knowing why. I hope you're okay, Emma. I hope you've moved on. I hope you've found someone new, someone who won't leave you, someone who can give you the life you deserve. But God, I hope you haven't. Is that terrible? That part of me hopes you're still mine, even though I gave you up? That part of me wants you to still be waiting, even though I told you to move on. I hadn't moved on. I hadn't found someone new. How could I, when I didn't know what had happened? How could I open my heart to someone else when my husband had just disappeared without explanation? There were more letters, dozens more. I read through them methodically, chronologically, watching Marcus's mental state deteriorate along with his physical one. The letters got shorter as he got sicker. The handwriting got shakier. Sometimes sentences trailed off mid-thought, as if he'd been too exhausted to finish them. But every single one ended the same way: I love you, Marcus. Every single one. Finally, I reached the last letter in the box. It was dated October 7th, just 3 weeks ago. The envelope was different from the others, heavier paper, more formal. And it was sealed, the flap glued down properly, as if this one had been meant to be sent. Inside was a single sheet of paper and a small jewelry box. I opened the box first. Inside was the necklace he'd mentioned, silver chain with a turquoise stone. Simple and beautiful. Exactly something I would have chosen for myself. Then I read the letter. My dearest Emma. If you're reading this, then you've received my journal. You've read my words. You know the truth about why I left. And you're here. In the cottage. In the place where I spent my final months. I don't know how you feel right now. Angry, probably. Sad, certainly. Maybe confused. Maybe betrayed. You have every right to all of those feelings and more. But I desperately hope, that somewhere underneath all of that, you can find it in your heart to understand. Not to forgive me, necessarily. I'm not sure what I did is forgivable. But to understand why I did it. I was afraid, Emma. Afraid of becoming a burden. Afraid of you watching me suffer. Afraid of your last memories of me being of someone weak and helpless and unrecognizable. My mother's death destroyed my father. He was never the same after watching her waste away. I saw what that kind of trauma does to a person, and I couldn't do that to you. So I chose this. I chose to leave. I chose to die alone. Was it the right choice? I don't know. I'll never know. But it's the choice I made, and I have to live with it. Or rather, I had to die with it. This necklace, it was meant to be your birthday present 2 years ago. I never got to give it to you. I want you to have it now. Wear it if you want. Or throw it in the ocean. Or donate it to Goodwill. Whatever feels right. Emma, I need you to know something. These past 2 years, these months of pain and loneliness and slowly dying, they've been bearable only because I've carried you with me every moment. Your memory. Your love. Your laugh. You made my life worth living. Even the end of it. I hope you can move on now. I hope you can find peace. I hope you can find love again, real, present, uncomplicated love with someone who won't leave you. You deserve that. You deserve everything good in this world. Thank you for 12 years of happiness. Thank you for being patient with my bad jokes and my messiness and my habit of leaving empty coffee cups all over the house. Thank you for loving me, even when I didn't deserve it. Thank you for being my wife. It was the greatest honor of my life. I love you, Emma Richardson. I loved you from the moment I met you until my last breath. And if there's anything beyond this life, I'll love you still. Goodbye, my darling. Goodbye. All my love, always and forever. Marcus. I don't know how long I sat there, clutching that letter, tears streaming down my face. The sun had moved across the sky, and the cottage was now filled with the golden light of late afternoon, but I barely noticed. Marcus had loved me. Until the very end, he had loved me. He'd made a terrible choice, a misguided, paternalistic, heartbreaking choice, but he'd made it out of love. And now I had to figure out what to do with that knowledge. I stayed at the cottage that night. I couldn't bring myself to leave, to walk away from this place where Marcus had spent his final months. It felt like abandoning him all over again. I found sheets in the linen closet, clean and smelling faintly of lavender, and made up the bed. I found food in the pantry and made myself eat something, though I barely tasted it. I sat on the porch as the sun set over the Pacific, watching the sky turn from blue to pink to orange to purple to black, and I talked to Marcus. "You idiot," I said to the empty air, to the sound of the waves, to wherever he was now. "You complete and total idiot." The waves crashed against the shore. The wind rustled through the grass. A seagull cried somewhere in the distance. Did you really think leaving was better than staying? Did you really think I'd rather spend 2 years wondering what I did wrong than spend a few months saying goodbye properly? No answer, of course. Just the eternal sound of the ocean. "I would have been there for you," I continued, my voice breaking. "I would have held your hand. I would have sat with you every single day. I would have made sure you weren't alone at the end." The tears came again, hot and fast, and I didn't try to stop them. "But you didn't give me that choice. You decided for me. You took away my chance to be there, to help you, to say goodbye." I pulled the necklace out of my pocket, the turquoise pendant that was meant to be a birthday present. I fastened it around my neck, the stone cool against my skin. "I understand why you did it," I whispered. "I hate it, but I understand it. You were trying to protect me. You were trying to spare me pain." The sky was fully dark now, stars beginning to appear. More stars than I ever saw in Portland, out here away from the city lights. But Marcus's pain is part of love. You don't get one without the other. And I would have chosen the pain of watching you die over the pain of not knowing. Every single time, I would have chosen that. I stayed on the porch for hours, wrapped in a blanket I'd found in the cottage, talking to my dead husband. Telling him about the past 2 years. About how I'd barely functioned at first, how Rachel had practically moved in to make sure I ate and slept. About how Beth had covered my shifts at the library when I couldn't face going in. About how I'd gone to therapy and tried to heal but couldn't, not without knowing what had happened. "You left a hole in my life," I said. "And I spent 2 years trying to fill it with explanations, with theories, with anything that would make sense. I thought maybe you'd been unhappy and I'd just been too blind to see it. I thought maybe there was someone else. I thought maybe I'd driven you away somehow." A cloud passed over the moon, plunging the porch into deeper darkness. I blamed myself, Marcus. For 2 years, I blamed myself. And all that time, you were here. Dying. Alone. Writing me letters you never sent. I wiped my eyes with the blanket, not caring that I was probably getting mascara all over it. "I'm angry at you," I admitted. "I'm so angry. But I'm also, I don't know. Sad. Heartbroken. Relieved that I finally know. Guilty that I wasn't there. It's all mixed up together and I don't know how to untangle it." The waves continued their eternal rhythm. Crash, retreat, crash, retreat. They'd been doing that long before Marcus came here, and they'd keep doing it long after I left. "I wish you'd trusted me," I said quietly. "I wish you'd believed that I was strong enough to handle it. Because I am, Marcus." I'm stronger than you thought. I stayed on that porch until well past midnight, until the cold finally drove me inside. I lay in Marcus's bed, the bed where he'd slept for months, where he'd read those books and written those letters and slowly died, and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow, I'd have to go back to Portland. Back to my real life. Back to figuring out how to move forward with this new knowledge. But tonight, I just wanted to be here. In this place that Marcus had made into a shrine to us. Surrounded by our memories, our photographs, our coffee mugs, our stupid cactus that refused to die. Tonight, I wanted to feel close to him one more time. When I woke the next morning, sunlight was streaming through the windows, and for a moment, just a brief, disorienting moment, I forgot where I was. Then I remembered, and the weight of everything came crashing back. I got up and made coffee in Marcus's tiny kitchen, using one of our blue mugs. I took it out to the porch and watched the sunrise, just as Marcus had done for months. He was right, it was spectacular. The sky turned from deep purple to pink to orange to gold, the colors reflecting off the water, the world slowly waking up. I understood now why he'd said sunrises were hopeful. There was something about watching a new day begin, about witnessing this daily miracle, that made you believe in possibilities. In second chances. In the idea that no matter how dark the night, the sun always comes back. After my coffee, I walked through the cottage one more time, memorizing every detail. The way the morning light hit the photographs on the wall. The exact shade of blue of the shutters. The creak of the floorboards in the bedroom. The smell of salt air and old wood and something indefinably Marcus. I couldn't keep this place. It was a rental, and presumably someone would need to come deal with Marcus's belongings eventually. But I wanted to remember it exactly as it was. I wanted to be able to close my eyes and picture this cottage, this shrine to our love, this place where my husband had spent his final months thinking of me. I packed carefully. The journal that had been on the nightstand. The wedding photo from the wall. The necklace, which I wore now and planned to never take off. A few of Marcus's flannel shirts, I couldn't take them all, but I wanted something I could wear, something that would smell like him. And Spike. I was definitely taking Spike. That ridiculous cactus had survived 2 years with Marcus and was coming home with me. Before I left, I wrote my own letter. I used a piece of paper from Marcus's journal and a pen I found in a kitchen drawer. I sat at the small table and wrote. Dear Marcus. I found your cottage. I read your letters. I understand now, or at least, I'm trying to. You were wrong, you know. About protecting me. About sparing me pain. The not knowing was its own kind of dying. Every day, I wondered. Every day, I blamed myself. Every day, I hoped you'd come back and explain. I wish you'd told me. I wish you'd let me choose. I wish I'd been there to hold your hand at the end. But I wasn't. And I can't change that. What I can do is this, I can forgive you. Not because what you did was right, it wasn't, but because I understand why you did it. Because love makes us do impossible, irrational things. Because you were human and flawed and afraid, and you did the best you could with an impossible situation. I forgive you for leaving. I forgive you for lying. I forgive you for thinking you knew what was best for me. And I forgive myself for all the anger and blame I carried for 2 years. For all the nights I lay awake wondering what I'd done wrong. For all the moments I wished you'd come back so I could scream at you. I release all of it. The anger, the blame, the what-ifs and if-onlys. I release you from any guilt you carried. I release myself from the prison of not knowing. You loved me until your last breath. And I will carry that love with me for the rest of my life. Thank you for 12 years of happiness. Thank you for every Tuesday morning and Sunday afternoon and ordinary Wednesday evening. Thank you for bad jokes and good coffee and that stupid cactus that refuses to die. Thank you for loving me enough to want to protect me, even if your protection hurt in ways you never intended. Rest now, Marcus. You fought hard. You loved hard. And wherever you are, I hope you've found the peace you were looking for. I love you. I forgive you. And I release you. Goodbye, my darling. Emma. I folded the letter carefully and placed it on the coffee table, weighted down with one of our blue mugs. Someone would find it eventually, the landlord, or whoever came to clean out the cottage. Or maybe no one would. Maybe it would just sit there, my words to Marcus in the place where he'd spent his final months. It didn't matter. I'd said what I needed to say. I took one last look around the cottage, imprinting every detail in my memory. Then I picked up Spike, grabbed my bag, and walked out the door. The drive back to Portland was quieter than the drive up. I didn't turn on the radio. I just drove in silence, processing everything I'd learned, everything I'd felt, everything that had changed in the past 24 hours. I stopped at the same cafe in Tillamook. Darlene was there again, and she smiled when she saw me. You came back, she said. How did your visit go? I thought about how to answer that. How did you summarize something like this? How did you explain that you'd just visited the ghost of your husband, that you'd learned he died thinking of you, that you'd forgiven him for leaving even though the wound was still fresh and raw? It was hard, I said finally. But necessary. I got the answers I needed. Darlene nodded as if she understood. Sometimes that's all we can ask for. Answers. Even when they hurt. Yeah, I agreed. Even when they hurt. This time, I ate my sandwich. And it was good. When I got home to Portland, it was late afternoon. The house on Maple Street looked exactly as I'd left it, blue-gray siding, white trim, that creaky porch swing that I still hadn't fixed. But everything felt different. I carried Spike inside and set him on the kitchen windowsill, in the spot where he'd lived before Marcus took him. I made coffee in one of our blue mugs, I'd brought both of them home. I sat at the kitchen table and just breathed. The house was still full of Marcus. His watch on the dresser. His clothes in the closet. His books on the shelves. His absence in every room. But now I understood that absence. Now I knew it wasn't rejection or abandonment. It was protection. Misguided, perhaps. Hurtful, certainly. But rooted in love. I called Rachel. Em? You're back? How was it? Are you okay? Questions tumbled out of her in a rush, the way they always did when she was worried. I don't know, I said honestly. I'm a lot of things. But I think maybe I'm going to be okay. Eventually. Tell me everything. So I did. I told her about the cottage and the photographs and the coffee mugs and the cactus. About the letters, hundreds of them, all addressed to me, all unsent. About Marcus's words, his pain, his love, his fear. That son of a bitch, Rachel said, but her voice was soft now. Sad. He really thought he was doing the right thing. Yeah. He did. Are you angry? Yes. And no. And yes again. It keeps changing, minute by minute. I'm angry that he left. I'm heartbroken that he was alone. I'm relieved that I finally know. I'm sad that I never got to say goodbye. It's all tangled up together. That's normal, Em. That's grief. It's messy and complicated and it doesn't follow any rules. I know. I wish he'd trusted me. I wish he'd believed I could handle it. I know, honey. But you can't change what he did. You can only decide what you're going to do now. She was right, of course. Rachel was always right. Over the following days, I slowly started to recalibrate my life around this new knowledge. I went back to work at Powell's, and when Beth asked how I was doing, I told her the truth. I found out what happened to Marcus. He died. 2 years ago. Cancer. The sympathy in her eyes was genuine. Oh, Emma. I'm so sorry. Thank you. I'm processing it. It's complicated. I imagine it is. Take all the time you need. I told the story over and over in those first weeks, to friends, to acquaintances, to the therapist I started seeing again. Each time, it got a little easier. The words flowed a little smoother. The emotions felt a little less raw. But there were still hard moments. Nights when I'd wake up crying, overwhelmed by the unfairness of it all. Mornings when I'd see something that reminded me of Marcus and the grief would hit me all over again, fresh and brutal. I kept the cottage. That surprised everyone, including me. But when the property management company contacted me about Marcus's belongings and the unpaid rent, I made a decision. I paid off what he owed and signed a new lease in my name. Are you sure about this? Rachel asked when I told her. That's a lot of money, Em. And a lot of emotional weight. I'm sure, I said. It's the place where Marcus spent his final months. Where he thought about me every day. Where he wrote me those letters. I'm not ready to let that go yet. So the cottage became mine. I didn't visit every weekend, sometimes the drive felt too long, the memories too heavy, but I went once or twice a month. Sometimes Rachel came with me. Sometimes I went alone. I'd sit on the porch with my coffee and watch the ocean and talk to Marcus. Tell him about my life. About the books I was reading. About Jake's basketball games and Lily's school play. About Beth's new boyfriend. About the new barista at our favorite coffee shop who always remembered my order. Sometimes I'd bring fresh flowers and put them in a vase on the table. Sometimes I'd read one of the books from Marcus's nightstand. Sometimes I'd just sit in silence, listening to the waves, feeling close to him in a way I never could in Portland. And slowly, so slowly I barely noticed it happening, I started to heal. 6 months after I received Marcus's journal, I went back to the cottage with a specific purpose. It was a clear April day, the kind of day where the Pacific Northwest finally remembers that spring exists. The cherry blossoms were blooming in Portland, and the drive up the coast was beautiful, sunshine glinting off the ocean, wildflowers dotting the roadside, everything green and alive and hopeful. Rachel came with me this time. She'd been asking to see the cottage for months, and I'd finally felt ready to share it with her. Oh, Emma, she breathed when we walked inside. It's beautiful. Sad, but beautiful. I know. She walked around slowly, taking in the photographs on the walls, the coffee mugs on the table, Spike in his place by the window. I'd been bringing him back and forth, unable to decide where he belonged. He really loved you, she said, stopping in front of our wedding photo. You can see it in his face. The way he's looking at you, like you're the only person in the world. Yeah, I said quietly. He did. We spent the day at the cottage, and I showed Rachel everything. The bedroom where Marcus had slept. The closet with his clothes. The box of letters he'd never sent. She cried as she read a few of them, and I held her hand, and we grieved together for the life that had been cut short, for the goodbye that never happened. But I'd also brought something with me. A small wooden box that I'd been working on for weeks. Inside were items that represented our life together. A copy of our wedding photo. A receipt from that Italian restaurant on Hawthorne where we'd had our third date. A Blazers ticket stub from the game where we'd been on the Jumbotron. A pressed flower from our anniversary trip to Maui. A guitar pick from Marcus's failed attempt to learn guitar. The menu from the cafe where we'd had our first date. Small things. Ordinary things. The kind of things you accumulate over a lifetime together and don't think much about until that life is over. I'd also written a letter, a final letter, to Marcus. My dearest Marcus. It's been 6 months since I received your journal. 6 months since I learned the truth about why you left. 6 months of processing and grieving and slowly learning to live in a world where you're gone, but I finally understand why. I've been coming to the cottage regularly. Did you know that? I rented it. I couldn't let it go. This place is my connection to you, to your final months, to the love you carried for me even at the end. I talk to you here. I sit on the porch and watch the sunrises you wrote about, and I tell you everything that's happening in my life. About Rachel's family. About work. About the books I'm reading. About how Spike is thriving, that ridiculous cactus just won't die. I've been thinking a lot about forgiveness. About what it means to forgive someone who hurt you even though they were trying to love you. About how to carry grief and love simultaneously, how to be angry and heartbroken and grateful all at once. And I've realized something: forgiveness isn't a one-time thing. It's not a decision you make once and then it's done. It's a daily practice. Some days, I wake up and I'm at peace with what you did. I understand your fear, your desire to protect me, your love. Other days, I wake up angry all over again, wishing you'd trusted me, wishing I'd had the chance to say goodbye. But I keep choosing forgiveness. Again and again. Because holding on to anger would only hurt me, and you loved me too much to want that. I've started living again, Marcus. Really living, not just going through the motions. I joined a book club. I took a pottery class. I'm thinking about maybe adopting a dog, you know I always wanted one. I'm even thinking about dating again. Eventually. Not now, but someday. And I don't feel guilty about that because I know that you'd want me to be happy. You said so in your letter. You wanted me to find love again. But I'll never forget you. You'll always be part of me. The 12 years we had together shaped who I am, and I'm grateful for every moment, even the painful ending. Thank you for the journal. Thank you for the cottage. Thank you for the letters. Thank you for loving me enough to try to protect me, even if your protection hurt in ways you never intended. Thank you for everything, Marcus. For the laughter and the adventures and the ordinary Tuesday mornings. For being my husband, my partner, my best friend. I'm letting you go now. Not forgetting you, never forgetting you, but releasing you. Releasing the grief and the anger and the what-ifs. You can rest now. We both can. I love you. I forgive you. And I release you. Goodbye, my darling. Until we meet again. All my love, always and forever. Emma. I sealed the letter in an envelope and placed it in a wooden box, along with all the other mementos. Then Rachel and I walked down to the beach. It was late afternoon, and the beach was mostly empty. A few people walked their dogs in the distance. A couple sat on a blanket, sharing a thermos of something hot. But mostly, it was just us and the ocean and the endless sky. We found a spot near the water, where the sand was firm and the waves could reach. I set the wooden box down and opened it, looking at the contents one last time. "Are you sure about this?" Rachel asked softly. "I'm sure." I'd thought about this moment for weeks. About what it would mean to let these physical objects go. But I'd realized that I didn't need them anymore. The memories were inside me, part of me, woven into the fabric of who I was. Marcus wasn't in these objects. He was in my heart. And that was something I'd carry forever, no matter what. I placed each item carefully in the waves, watching as the ocean carried them away. The photograph. The receipt. The ticket stub. The pressed flower. The guitar pick. The menu. Last, I placed the letter in the water. It floated for a moment, the white envelope stark against the blue-gray of the Pacific, and then a wave caught it and pulled it under. Gone. All of it gone. Rachel put her arm around me, and we stood there together, watching the waves crash against the shore. Watching the sun begin its descent toward the horizon. Watching the world continue on, indifferent to our small human griefs and joys. "How do you feel?" Rachel asked. I took a deep breath of salt air and thought about it. How did I feel? "Lighter," I said finally. "Sad, but lighter." "That's good, Em. That's really good." We stayed on the beach until the sun set, a spectacular sunset, all oranges and pinks and purples, the kind of sunset that makes you understand why people write poetry and paint paintings and fall in love. The kind of sunset Marcus would have loved. As we walked back to the cottage, I touched the turquoise necklace at my throat, the birthday present he'd never gotten to give me. I'd wear it every day for the rest of my life, a tangible reminder of his love, his protection, his flawed but genuine attempt to spare me pain. That night, Rachel and I sat on the porch and drank wine and talked about Marcus. Not the sadness of his death, but the joy of his life. The funny stories. The happy memories. The way he'd make us laugh with his terrible impressions. The way he'd always burn the toast but refuse to give up on making breakfast. The way he'd loved me with his whole heart, right up until the end. And for the first time since I'd received that mysterious package, I felt at peace. A year after receiving Marcus's journal, I met someone. His name was David, and he was a regular at Powell's, one of those customers who came in every week to browse the fiction section and always left with at least 3 books. I'd noticed him before, tall, slightly graying hair, wire-rimmed glasses, a kind face, but I'd never really paid attention. Until the day he came to the counter with a copy of East of Eden. "Good choice," I said, scanning the book. "That's one of my favorites." "Mine too," he said. Well, it was my late wife's favorite. I read it every year in her memory. Something in his voice made me look up. There was a sadness there, but also a kind of peace. The look of someone who'd grieved deeply and come out the other side. "I'm sorry for your loss," I said. "Thank you. It's been 3 years now. Some days are easier than others." "I understand," I said. And I did. I lost my husband 2 years ago. Cancer. We looked at each other for a moment, two people who'd loved and lost, recognizing something in each other. "Would you maybe like to get coffee sometime?" David asked. "It's nice to talk to someone who understands." I almost said no. The old Emma, the Emma who'd spent 2 years frozen in grief and uncertainty, would have said no. But I wasn't that Emma anymore. I'd like that, I said. So we got coffee. And then we got coffee again. And again. And slowly, carefully, cautiously, we became friends. Then more than friends. David didn't replace Marcus. No one could. But he was something new, something separate, something that belonged to this chapter of my life instead of the last one. He understood grief in a way most people didn't. He understood that loving someone new didn't mean forgetting someone old. He understood that some days I'd need to talk about Marcus, to share stories, to cry about what I'd lost. And he never made me feel guilty about that. 6 months after our first coffee, David asked me to go to Cannon Beach with him. I know it might be hard, he said. I know the cottage is there. But I'd like to see it, if you're willing to share it with me. I'd like to understand that part of your life. So we went. And I showed him the cottage, the photographs on the walls, the coffee mugs, the place where Marcus had spent his final months thinking of me. David walked through it quietly, respectfully, taking it all in. He must have loved you very much, he said finally. He did. I'm glad. You deserve to be loved like that. We sat on the porch and watched the sunset, and I told David everything. About finding the journal. About the letters. About Marcus's choice to leave. About my journey from not knowing to forgiving to healing. Do you think you'll keep the cottage? David asked. I'd been thinking about that question for months. The cottage had served its purpose, it had helped me understand, helped me grieve, helped me heal. But did I need to keep holding on to it forever? I don't know, I said honestly. Part of me wants to keep it as a memorial to Marcus. But another part of me thinks maybe it's time to let it go. To let someone else make happy memories here. What does your heart say? I thought about that. What did my heart say? My heart says Marcus wouldn't want me to stay stuck in the past. He'd want me to move forward. To live. To be happy. Then maybe that's your answer. A month later, I terminated the lease on the cottage. But before I did, I spent one final weekend there, saying goodbye. I took down the photographs from the walls, our wedding photo, our vacation pictures, all the documented moments of our life together. I packed them carefully, knowing they'd find new places on the walls of my house in Portland. I cleaned the cottage thoroughly, washing the windows and mopping the floors and making sure everything was perfect for whoever came next. And I wrote one more letter, which I left on the coffee table. To whoever lives here next. This cottage was a refuge for someone I loved. He spent his final months here, watching the sunrises and thinking about the life he'd lived. He was at peace here, as much as anyone can be at peace when they're dying. I hope this place brings you joy. I hope you drink coffee on the porch and watch the waves and feel grateful for every ordinary moment. Life is short and unpredictable. Love is complicated and painful and beautiful. Make the most of both. With hope for your happiness. Emma. On my last morning at the cottage, I sat on the porch with my blue coffee mug and watched the sunrise one final time. It was spectacular, oranges and pinks and purples reflecting off the water, the world waking up, full of possibility. Thank you, I said to Marcus, to the cottage, to the memory of everything that had happened here. Thank you for teaching me about love and loss and forgiveness. Thank you for the pain and the healing. Thank you for everything. The waves crashed against the shore. A seagull cried overhead. The sun continued its steady climb into the sky. And I felt, finally, completely at peace. 2 years after receiving that mysterious package, I married David. It was a small ceremony on the beach in Cannon Beach, not at the cottage, but nearby, on a stretch of sand where the waves rolled in gently and Haystack Rock stood tall in the distance. Rachel was there, of course, with Tom and the kids. Beth came, and some friends from work, and David's grown daughter flew in from Boston. And as I stood there in my simple white dress, not the same dress I'd worn to marry Marcus, but something new, I touched the turquoise necklace at my throat and felt Marcus's presence. Not sad. Not haunting. Just there. A gentle reminder of the love I'd had, the love I'd lost, and the love I'd found again. David saw me touch the necklace and smiled. He understood. He always understood. He'd be happy for you, he whispered as we waited for the ceremony to begin. I know, I said. And I did know. Because I'd read Marcus's letters. I'd seen his final wishes. He'd wanted me to find love again. He'd wanted me to be happy. And I was. Finally, completely, genuinely happy. As the officiant began to speak, I looked out at the ocean, the same ocean Marcus had watched in his final months, the same waves that had carried away my letter to him, the same eternal presence that had witnessed both my greatest love and my deepest loss. The ocean didn't care about our human dramas. It just continued on, wave after wave, constant and indifferent. But we cared. We loved and lost and grieved and healed and loved again. That's what made us human. That's what made life worth living. Emma? David squeezed my hand gently. You ready? I took one last look at the ocean, at Haystack Rock, at the place where I'd said goodbye to Marcus and hello to my future. Yes, I said. I'm ready. And I was. Years later, when people asked me about the mysterious package that arrived after my husband left, I would tell them this. Love doesn't end when someone dies. It doesn't even end when they leave. It transforms. It becomes memory, then healing, then wisdom. Marcus loved me enough to try to protect me from pain, even though his protection caused a different kind of pain. I loved him enough to forgive him for that choice, even though forgiveness was hard. And that mysterious package, that journal full of confessions and apologies and love, gave me the gift of understanding. Of closure. Of being able to move forward instead of staying frozen in not knowing. Some people might say Marcus made the wrong choice. That he should have stayed, should have told me, should have let me be there at the end. And maybe they're right. But I choose to believe that he did the best he could with an impossible situation. That his choice came from love, even if it was misguided. That he thought he was protecting me, even as he was hurting me. I choose to believe in the complexity of love, that it can be both beautiful and painful, both generous and selfish, both present and absent. And I choose to believe that sometimes a goodbye doesn't come all at once. Sometimes it comes in pieces, in journals and letters and coffee mugs left in cottages by the sea. Sometimes it takes years. But it comes. And when it does, you have two choices, let it destroy you, or let it transform you. I chose transformation. And every morning, when I wake up to David sleeping beside me, when I touch the turquoise necklace at my throat, when I water that ridiculous cactus that refuses to die, I choose it again. I choose love. I choose life. I choose forward. And somewhere, in whatever comes after this life, I believe Marcus is at peace. Knowing that I'm happy. Knowing that I'm loved. Knowing that I forgave him. That mysterious package didn't bring him back. But it brought me something better, understanding, closure, and the ability to finally, truly say goodbye. And then to say hello again.